WESN.
One of the things that I strongly believe in is freedom of religion. And I've mentioned this before. And I've tried to mention this point every time I get the opportunity to do so. Because I think it is something, ironically, that most people, whether they are vehemently religious or vehemently atheists, do not seem to understand. Most normal people who will go about lives in a normal, mundane, simple way may kind of understand where I'm coming from by default, but most likely I've never thought about it. And maybe I'm underestimating people. But there's something about freedom to do whatever, which is a very simple yet complex ideology or concept that we need to, at times, protect. And at times it seems obvious and easy, and yet we don't necessarily understand how easily it could potentially be derailed. I identify myself with a single religion. Don't identify myself with any other. But more importantly, I believe that a nation that allows freedom for each individual to choose their religion is an important right that thus allows me in said nation to practice my religion of choice. It also includes the capacity to choose not to believe in anything. They go hand in hand. We can't have one without the other. I also believe in not utilizing the doctrine of any religion singularly to formulate our laws and policies. Because how do you pick and choose which doctrine from which religion? At some point there's going to be a contradiction. It's better to keep, for the most part, religion out of laws. Now, there will be some things that are universal. I don't think any religion believes in murder or robbery or certain criminal acts which generally human beings, for the most part, agree should be considered criminal acts. But then when you get into the nitty-gritties of the various dogmas unique to each religion, you don't necessarily want that now coming into the general public space. Even if, to some extent, a society is made up of majority one religion, if you decide to go down that path, you lose something with regards to your freedoms ultimately. It's a slow, it's a subtle, it's an incremental, slippery slope. And I say all that just to point out something that probably is very minor, but yet I wanted to highlight that based on the principle of the concept of what I just mentioned. Because no matter how small, I think one of my beliefs, I didn't learn this anywhere, it is not a theory that I picked up, it's not a theory that I could prove via the scientific method per se, but I believe that a principle is only truly a principle by which we should all universally follow if it can be applied everywhere, even in the simplest of cases. And in this case, something very, very simple or minor is going to happen, and that is the ceremony to open the new law term is going to have, I believe, 1 or 2 religious leaders. Both of them, I think, are Christian. I don't know what specific denomination of Christianity, but, well, one being Anglican. And I want to say up front, I'm not blaming these gentlemen. Now, some judges have questioned about the omission of other faiths, and I do believe that they are right to question it, because you can't necessarily take it for granted that a minor mistake is not necessarily a small increment of change. Even if there's no intention for it to be so, that might still end up being the result. Some might argue, what does faith have to do with the judiciary in the first place and the legal fraternity? And I think one of the things that came out of it, at least in the article, one of the judges might have mentioned, look, maybe the whole thing is unnecessary. And you might say, well, how could you say that? Well, at the end of the day, while I understand what prayer means to most of us, we cannot then assume that it is a universal, important thing that must be applied in every aspect. At the end of the day, ultimately, I think religion is a personal thing. If the state wishes to practice it, it needs to have some respect to the fact that, at least as far as I am aware, we have freedom of religion here. And it doesn't have to be my religion or belief system that's persecuted for me to want to stand up and defend that principle, no matter how minuscule the infraction. Because we've reached the point in TNT where so many things we have seen incremental decline in our economy, with crime, with our bureaucratic processes, with our infrastructure. We've seen the slow steps of what once was a shining city on the hill, rhetorically speaking, in terms of the region, to now what might be a tale of a family that lost all its wealth. I'm not going to take it for granted that the increments might not continue. More importantly, just on the bare surface, I do think it is slightly or potentially disrespectful to other religions in the country. And again, it's not my religions, but that's not the point. The point is, I have a principle, and at the end of the day, if I felt my religion was slighted, I would hope that others of other faiths would stand up for me. Just like if my human rights were trampled, I would hope others would stand up for me. Again, a lot of people might think I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, and that's fine. That's fine. Ironically, this is probably the one area about religion that, if it makes sense, I believe in the most strongly. Make of that what you will. Sure, Michael Smallhead, this is talking about a WESN, the content capital. And I guess you could say we're coming to a point where I guess All of us are going to be tested. But human nature is to not want to face the fire, to not want to take the risk, to not want to be involved. Hence why I see the phenomenon of people taking out their cell phones to film things as opposed to trying to stop wrongdoings. We all have to do our part. And sometimes it's the small steps, not the big ones, the small steps that makes a difference if we all make that small step. Now with that said, there's a few things to get through, so let's start today's daily review. One of the things that came out earlier in the week is that the Police Service Commission launched a survey online. They want to get feedback on the police's performance, right? And of course, around the same time, Minister Scotland, or I think maybe the day later, Minister Scotland said that he and Ayla needed to improve. Now, with regards to the Service Commission, I'll say this, I don't know enough of them to really make a judgment. But what I do think is, this is one of those times when you could take a small step. Take a small step and have your say. They have a survey. Why not participate? The thing is, if not enough people participate in the survey, its value would be somewhat limited, no matter what the intentions of the Service Commission are. And we might want to make the assumption that the politicians and the political appointees are doing things in bad faith. But look, at the end of the day, I've always said, we should do our part. If they fail after that, then it's on them. But if we don't do our part and the exercise or the initiative or the motion, whatever, falls through, and we didn't do our part, we can't only blame them. Because if we point that finger, we have three sticking right back at us. Now, Minister Scotland is an interesting case. The time when he was appointed, what it could possibly mean. The thing is, because he is new to this post, there is some leeway that he should be given. As much as I say that there's not a lot of leeway to give to the government. Now, if he keeps saying the same exact things, you know, the next time and the next time and the next time and the next time and the next time, then we have a problem. But for him to basically say, look, I'm new here, but I need to improve. He thinks the commissioner is doing her best, but she still needs to improve. Not totally throwing her under the bus, but acknowledging the fact that the results are not at the level that the country is willing to accept or should be willing to accept. I could appreciate that. One of the issues is I don't think we fully understand all of the details of what's going on with regards to where all of the deficiencies lie. To what extent is it from budgeting? I will say this, and I'll go back to the reshuffling of divisional heads or ACPs and senior superintendents or what have you. I don't know if I could trust the current commissioner to undertake that exercise and get it right. To exercise good judgment, changing around the leadership of the various police divisions. When at the end of the day, I would beg the question, how much of the population and their dissatisfaction starts with her and not with divisional heads? It's a fine line of supporting the system to try to get the positive change that we want and need, and calling them out when things goes beyond the pale. I am not sure if the minister's hopes that the commissioner would improve is a sentiment that I could take 100% seriously, or to put it another way, that I am willing to have patience to wait and see if there could be a turnaround. Because we have gone through lackluster years, and we don't necessarily, and I've made this argument from the initial set of criticisms I had for her early in her tenure, based on mainly things that she said, her approach to communication, as well as what she said was her objectives, the time frame she gave herself, etc., etc. Understanding how unrealistic it all sounded, and what seemingly little confidence she seemingly had in and of herself, and a lack of command, for all intents and purposes, if this was an academic setting, of the material, which at her level, to some extent, I don't know, is acceptable. The thing about the Police Service Commission is they are responsible for the situation we find ourselves in. And there are a lot of things that brings up questions about the effects of leadership, or the negative effects of the lack of leadership that we currently see, as well as the negative effects of some of the promotion controversies, of which, for whatever reason, there are many within the TTPS during the short tenure of the current Commissioner of Police. And let's not forget, her background is administration. So, unfortunately, if the public does not have a strong enough opinion to cause the government to change the situation, all I could do is wait and see. I have already said my opinion, I have made my peace. To be fair to the government, I don't necessarily know who they would pick for the next commissioner. It's just that, and usually I hate to say something like this, but there reaches a point when you hit rock bottom where any change might be better than no change. Meanwhile, I want to hit another story that came out in conjunction with this. Opposition MP Dr. Rudal Monilal, he made the claim that government collapsed or undermined the SSA, and saying that the intelligence community, and the implication is the intelligence gathering of the country has more or less been undermined and is no longer effective. My problem with that is, ultimately, again, to some extent, we have to look at the results. Before the whole situation came to a head and the government intervened and removed Major Best and had to bring in the ambassador, the brigadier, etc., etc., we had issues with crime falling through. So to use that as the focus of the example does not really make the point. And then to what extent now, because let's go back to the People's Partnership, who had a state of emergency because of a national security threat, which has not technically been very well defined. They gave us a definition of what that threat was. I don't necessarily know if it was a highly defined one that I am confident to say that this is exactly what happened. And what came out of that, and the reason why I think you could argue that was an intelligence failure, is not the state of emergency per se, but the fact that then subsequently arrests were made. The thing about intelligence is, you have intelligence, you use that to then figure out ways to generate evidence. But the state of the emergency, apparently they had intelligence to call a state of emergency to make arrests, but the arrest didn't stick. The arrest didn't stick, and then we had, I don't know how much lawsuits have come through, but it's not a small number from those situations. So one could argue that if there are deficiencies in the intelligence services of the country, it's way before what we've seen lately with the SSA. I mean, to some extent, the People's Partnership also had its own controversy with regards to the appointment of the head of the SSA. Let's not forget that. I think more would have been required to truly show how what recently happened leads to the effects of what we see now. Because truthfully, as most people would say about most issues in TNT, this is what's sad. Because it just came up with the procurement situation with regards to giving out contracts for major works like housing, where two callers that day on Tuesday basically said, one said, this has been going on for the last 20 years. The other caller said it's been going on for the last 30 or 40 years. Our crime problem, I don't know, maybe you might want to say it's not 40 years, because when I was young, we were lamenting crossing the 100 and then 300 murders a year mark. But it's not like this is new. It's not like crime hasn't been growing and escalating before. And it's not like we haven't hit 500 before. So I don't know if I'm willing to take that argument. There's a lot of questions with regards to the national security apparatus and what politics overall has done to it. And while, yes, I could agree with a lot of criticisms of the current administration and political interference, the thing is, that doesn't mean that I am not open to hear and accept similar claims of similar behavior in the past. And this goes beyond the partnership's time. It could be even during the administration before that with Mr. Manning, and the administration before that with Mr. Pandey, and so on and so on. Unfortunately, we in TNT are very bad at chronicling our history and keeping track of all of our records. And I have no idea how much of our own recent history we have lost, which is crazy to think. We're not that old of a country, and we've already potentially forgotten important things. The public has its memories, but we potentially don't have the records. Or maybe they're there, and I just don't know. But I'll leave that there. I want to take a break. When we come back, there is, well, one citizen had an interesting experience by which it seems as though the government is not necessarily understanding what the left hand wants to do versus what the right hand wants to do. And of course, I'll be joined by my co-host as well as we speak to something that I think a lot of citizens have gone through in some form or another, at least once, if not more. Stay tuned to Talking Point on WESN, the Content Capital. We'll be right back after this.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
And we're back here on Talking Point on WESN. And of course, I'm joined by my co-host. You know him. Maybe you love him. Mr. Keaton Shah.
Virtual co-host. Good morning, Sean Michael Small.
Keaton, I stumbled across a very interesting video, and you also had the same video. We got it from different sources, probably went viral. And you managed to secure said individual to join us today. Why don't you introduce him?
Actually, yes, the video that Sean Michael Small and I are speaking about refers to a gentleman who had a very terrible experience. I'm trying to sugarcoat this because he was fuming in the video. A terrible experience at licensing office recently. And many of us have had terrible experiences at licensing office, but the silliness of what he explained was rather incredible. And apart from which, he's one of the individuals that's actually chosen to speak openly about it. So we welcome to the program this morning, ladies and gentlemen, a gentleman known as Mr. Paul. Good morning, Mr. Paul, and welcome to Talking Point.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let
me just start off saying that the video got quite a lot of hits, and there were a number of people who saw the passion and the fury that I made the video with, and a lot of people, and I thank them for that, were concerned that I would pop some sort of blood vessel or get a heart attack. And I would like to assure all of those people who were concerned that I'm absolutely fine. If I don't express myself and let these things go, I think that would probably damage me more than the fury and the passion that I make these videos for. Thank you everybody for your concern. I'm fine and dandy.
I must admit, I literally had the same thought, and I was thinking about that as Keaton was speaking about it. The frustration that you felt was so palpable, and the look on your face of anger, it was so strong that I did have legit concerns, like, I just hope he doesn't, and the interesting part was, the second watch, I knew obviously that you weren't going to collapse during the video, but it was still so strong that I still had concerns, like, I hope he's going to be okay venting all of these things out. Because, I mean, it seems almost, I don't know how to explain it, although to some extent it's not surprising. I'm sure everybody has experienced something like this. You essentially goes to one state entity to try to get something required from another state entity, and it's almost like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. They're on two different wavelengths and you're stuck in the middle.
Well, put it this way, Sean Michael Small, thank God that Mr. Paul is okay and he's doing well and he's given that assurance this morning. But before we go any further,
okay.
Mr. Paul, I think it's prudent that you share with us your experience and give us the details of actually what transpired that day. And we're speaking at licensing office, of course.
So I am I was in the process of buying a vehicle, and believe it or not, this is the first brand new vehicle I have ever bought in my life. And you'd probably recognize that I am a senior. So I was looking forward to getting this new vehicle, and obviously there's a degree of excitement and anxiety that you're gonna get a new vehicle. I want your viewing audience to know that I was not actually at the licensing authority for the first part of the process. The dealership was there at the licensing authority. The day before this transaction took place, they had asked me for identification and a utility bill for the transaction, which I went and supplied with the dealership. Just to make sure that the process hopefully would go smoothly, I also supplied the dealership with a copy of this month, one of the bank statements that I have from this month, and also a letter from the valuation department of the government, the revenue authority. I supplied them with that, with an up-to-date valuation, property valuation, and both of these documents, all three of these documents had my name and address, and they were all the same. So just as a backup. So they called me from licensing and told me that licensing will not accept the WASA bill because it is 1 day older than 3 months. So I said, fine. What I would do, I will go to WASA and I will get a new bill and I will bring it to licensing. Now I want you to understand that this lady had been at licensing for quite some time. You've seen the lines in licensing. You know how many hours people spend at licensing. And she was at the top of the line. So I understood the urgency that she needed this document. So because I had given her a WASA document, I thought it prudent that I would go to WASA and get a current, up-to-date utility bill from them. Because I had given her a WASA bill, I wanted to give her another WASA bill. So I ran off to WASA, and also because of the proximity of where Caroni is and WASA is, that was the closest thing. So I go to WASA and I asked them for a current WASA bill. They printed exactly the same bill that I had given the lady to do the transaction. So just to make sure that licensing knew that it was a current bill, I paid some money towards the bill and brought the receipt together with the utility bill. And I rushed off to licensing. Well, luckily they did not send her to the back of the line, as I have heard people sometimes have to go through. They say, well, now you have to join the back of the line and start all over again. But luckily we got to the front of the line and I got to see the officer. I was not able to go and see the clerk that was involved, who made the decision initially that this would not be accepted because, and the reason was given that the bill was 1 day older than the 3 months. The officer was very nice. He listened to me, which I shouldn't say I was surprised, because some of these guys, because of their office, they live in ivory towers. But this guy listened to me, and I said, listen, WASA would not give me an up-to-date bill because the meter has not been read. And sometimes these meters take 2, 3, 4 weeks to come and read the meter before they print another bill. And the other thing is, you don't always get a bill on time in this country because the postal service is horrible. So you will get a bill that's past the due date in your home because of the TT Post. I don't know what they do at TT Post. Did they gather up a series of letters and they say, right, we're going to take 400 letters now to Mr. Paul because we have enough. So they gather those letters. They don't necessarily take a letter the day they get it from the bank or the utility company and then deliver it to us. So you all know the problems. Anyway, that was the scenario that happened that day. And of course, when they told me the utility bill was 1 day over the 3 months, I lost it, and that's when I made the video.
Well, go ahead, Peter.
So, sorry, curious to know, Mr. Paul, I know that you mentioned that with respect to the proximity to Carney, the Water and Sewage Authority was the closest. Was there any possibility that you could have gotten another utility bill to prove a more recent utility bill?
Okay, and I did get a lot of questions on Facebook and stuff like that. The TNTech bill for our home is in my wife's name. I do not have Flow or as a utility. I have Starlink, so they don't give us a bill. A lot of other bills that we pay now are online. So because of the urgency that this lady was at the top of the line, I could not go to my wife and ask her for an authorization letter to use the TNTech bill. As I said, I don't have Flow, I have Starlink. They don't give a bill. I pay my Digicel bill online. There is no printed document. So for me to go to somewhere and get a document printed, time was of the essence. So this is why I chose to go to WASA and get this bill.
So what have you been told with regards to moving forward with this situation? Are you gonna subsequently, do you have to look to take the longer route and wait? Is this essentially cause your purchase to be delayed by what I would assume to be a few days, if not a week or more?
Well, when I did speak to the officer, his response to me was, we will make a decision in a day or two. When I gave him the newly printed bill and the receipt from WASA, he said it would take a day or two. Subsequently to that, the Ministry of Works and Transport did engage me in a conversation. They did get my telephone number and called me and asked me what had transpired, and I gave them the story, and they said they would like to make things right. They would like to use this experience to not frustrate the public. So I'm very glad that they reached out to me, and hopefully from this experience that something can be changed. I hope it's not just lip service that they called out for, and they didn't apologize, but they said, let's see if we can make this right. So the officer, having said this would take a day or two, I did find out from the dealership yesterday that everything has gone according to plan. The vehicle will be registered. I don't know whether they used their discretion or whether Works and Transport got involved. That's not my business, however they did it, but things are going forward now. Things are going forward now.
I wonder if it is that you did not. Well, first of all, you must be a very important person, Mr. Paul, if Works and Transport reached out to you directly to try and resolve this issue. Because I'm wondering, had you not, ventilated your frustrations publicly, in which you did, and again, you really were very much. You were so furious. It seemed as though you were trying to hold yourself back from expressing the extent of your frustration. But I really wonder, though, if you had not, spoken publicly of this, whether or not you would have received this attention. Ministry of Works would have actually said, let's try and resolve this, and not just for this particular case, but for future in terms of the operations of licensing authority as well.
I've made a couple videos in the past against telephone companies and banks, and they have gained a lot of traction. And the banks and the telephone companies, having seen these viral videos online, have reached out to me and discussed the issue. So I guess it was a little bit of an embarrassment for licensing, and of course they have ways and means to get people's identification and their telephone numbers. I did not mean to embarrass anybody by doing these videos. It was all about me. I needed to vent. If I don't vent, I keep it inside, that would probably give me the heart attack. So I imagine that's why they reached out, and that's why I'm acknowledging the fact that they reached out, because I had no intention of embarrassing them. But I'm trying in my own little way. Let's fix little problems that make day-to-day living difficult for people in this country. Maybe the government should consider having a ministry of simple, so they get feedback from the public and say, listen, yeah boy, that is something simple that we can fix, or that is something stupid that is happening, let's fix it. Have a ministry of simple, a ministry of stupid.
Sure.
That is one of the most unique recommendations that I have ever heard. Although it's not without precedent, because there are secret shopper programs to do quality control with retail outlets in TNT. I know that, and it begs the question: is there any sort of quality control with the various state entities and ministries who supposedly, we're not talking about I'm trying to get some fast food or buy a t-shirt. You're trying to get your car registered at licensing, right? You're trying to do what is a very important process. And this is not a $5 purchase. This is the government required legal process for something that is going to be quite expensive, and it's already going to be seriously stressful and a heavy commitment. What feedback did you get from the car dealership, and if any, and their person on the whole matter? Because of course there was a lady who basically had to just kind of deal with some of the bulk of the process of being in line and being the go-between. Did you hear anything from what she went through that you could possibly add that could shed some more light on what happened?
Well, this lady obviously works for the dealership and does a number of cars every week, every month. So she's probably case hardened to what she has to go through at licensing. So I would imagine when she gets up in the morning, she makes up her mind that she's having to go to licensing and that she's going to have to go through the 3, 4, 5 hours of whatever licensing are putting her through. But the dealership has reached out to me, and they have said that everything is now going smoothly. We should, or they should, get the letter now from licensing to pay for us to receive a number plate for the vehicle. Just so people know, it's not an expensive vehicle that I bought. I'm not an extravagant person. It's a little pickup van. So I was excited to get it. That's the kind of guy I am. I bought myself a little pickup van, and I was excited to get it.
Okay, but nothing is wrong with that. But here's the thing, Mr. Paul. You made a suggestion, perhaps the need for a ministry of simple and stupid. And some people might say that's just in jest. But the points that you've made actually speak to possibly needing some avenue or some organization or authority to deal with that. But here's the thing: there are also going to be those who say this is minor. A lot of people face this on a daily basis. A lot of people go through this at licensing office. It's you know, we have to face this, we have to go through this. It's a normal thing. It's a normal thing. Why is it that we are making such a big fuss or such a big issue out of this?
I did a video some years ago, and I asked the minister, why don't we have private garages to license P cars and light vehicles, so that the congestion at licensing is lessened. Funnily enough, about 3 or 4 days after I made that video, they made the announcement that they were going to do that. Obviously, it was in the pipeline that they were thinking of that, which brought down the congestion in licensing considerably. Now, I understand I have to have my vehicle inspected because we need safe vehicles on the road. It's a good thing that they do this inspection. But to cause people to have to wait, I have passed licensing in the night before the day, and people are lined up at midnight and 4 o'clock in the morning so that they get into licensing at a reasonable time, get in and out of licensing. It's terrible, man. That bottleneck, there has to be a way to get rid of that bottleneck. Apparently the private garages cannot inspect taxis, but if these private garages are authorized to do an inspection on vehicles, what is the difference between a H car and a P car? They're the same cars. Those are the simple things that need to be corrected. And I also had a thought about the WASA bill. Suppose I had a WASA bill that was dated February, March, April. That's 89 days. But there are months that have 30 and 31 days in them, which brings us up to 91 days. So yes, it was 1 day over, because unfortunately it was the wrong months, you know. Use your discretion now, people. That's 1 day. It's not like a court date that I'm on a murder charge and I have to be in court on June the 19th. You know, that is a serious thing. 1 day out could get me a warrant to lock my butt back up, right? So this is 1 day we talking about, man. Yeah.
Well, that I actually wanted to ask, because I appreciate that licensing and works and transport rectified the situation there. And I would argue, though, that the clerk probably, and rightfully so, may not have had the ability to just turn the other way on the day, depending on how the rules are enforced. My thing was, I kind of don't like what you pointed out with regards to WASA and the billing. Because it's not just the fact that it seems as though you kind of get bills whenever TT Post gets it and it might be late. There's also, some people have observed and told me that with their bills, there are months where they don't have bills, right? They want you to print out the bill. They want you to have to use the online platforms and at times...
you have to pay to get a printed bill.
Right, you have to pay a fee if you want a printed bill from them, an official document, because let's not forget, this is supposed to be an official document. So to what extent could I print out my stuff at home? When will that be allowed? When will that be not allowed? I'm not entirely sure, right?
Sure, Michael, if I may just interject you there, bear in mind one of the points that Mr. Paul made as well. He actually took an evaluation form, you know, from the Ministry of Finance when it comes to property tax.
Well,
to verify.
Well, we could get to that later, because again, to some extent now, this is where perhaps licensing needs to kind of keep up with the times of what is available in terms of official documentation, because at the end of the day, it's not as though they specify it has to be just this bill alone from this utility. But my point is, what the kind of run around that WASA gave you, which I found kind of ludicrous. Oh, we'll give you the same bill that you have in your hand already. Did WASA reach out to you afterwards, or is it only Works and Transport?
No. WASA's not involved in this. Funnily enough, when I went to WASA, and I go to WASA quite often because I need clearance certificates and all this kind of stuff. And I've made an acquaintance with the guard, and I went and I told him that I needed this utility bill to go to licensing. And his response was, do you know how many people come to WASA for bills for the purpose of licensing a vehicle? So licensing, what is wrong with a bank statement? This was this month's bank statement with my name and address on it. The bank is partially owned by the government. These are the little things that get me irritated and get anybody irritated. So the 1 day late or 1 day over the 3 months, I don't know, because I wasn't in person, neither
Right.
was the agent of the car dealership. Go to this person. But what shouldn't the better thing to have done was go to your supervisor and say, listen, this document is 1 day over the 3 months. Should we accept it? I don't know whether that was done. And again, we need a ministry of simple. That's what we need. We need people to, are people afraid to make decisions that they would get victimized or fired from their place of work? Are these people capable to make, are they allowed to make simple decisions without repercussions? How simple is this decision to make? It's 1 day older. I have a driver's license. It has my name, my picture, my address on it. Who issued that license? How did you issue that license? I presented IDs and utility bills to get that license. Come now, man, this is what irritates the general public. Not only me. I'm not unique in this. Everybody goes through this.
Have people, you said people, commented on your post via social media. Have they expressed similar, has anyone expressed similar experiences to you?
Every single post, with the exception of the people that says don't get a heart attack, every single post says they have had similar experiences, and they go on to relate these experiences. When I did the videos on the banks, everybody has had the same experiences, similar experience. One bank ain't good, this bank ain't good. Nobody has said any banks are good. All the videos I've made on the telephone companies, everybody has had, it's thousands and thousands of comments that I get on these videos, and without exception, all have had experiences like me.
Would you spoke out, and fortunately you got a response, and in a timely manner, I would imagine. Do you think that there's one of the issues why the problem is allowed to be so widespread is the fact that maybe not enough people speak out, not necessarily in the way that you do, but to find some legitimate channel, and not just one more person speaks out, but we need to have most people that have these negative experiences, which, as you rightfully pointed out, some of them might have simple fixes. It's not rocket science to just kind of tweak things or reconsider things. Do you think more people, it would behoove us all to speak out over these relatively minor issues?
Mr. Small, that's a real good point, because when I talk to people, engage them in this kind of conversation, I tell them the problem, one of the problems in Trinidad is that we don't speak out enough. And we need to do that. We need to voice our opinion. But why people don't do it in Trinidad, I question that all the time. Are they afraid of something bad happening to them? Nothing bad has happened to me. I've made a lot of videos, and none of them are complimentary. None of them are and nothing bad has happened to me. I've not been victimized in any way. And people need to start saying something, doing something, and let the authorities know that this has to be changed. there are people that says, and whether right or wrong, I can't say, but because of the color of my skin, I will get noticed more than most. Maybe that's true, I don't know. But putting that aside, we need to start standing up to what we believe is right. Whether it is wrong or right, stand up for what you believe and let the authorities notice and take note. Again, this is why I came up with the philosophy, let's have a ministry of simple, so we can go to and say, listen, this is what happened to me at licensing. This is what happened to me at town and country. This is what happened to me at regional corporation. Can you look into this matter? And have a list of matters that they have to look into.
And I would just like to point out though, even in your own videos, at least the one that went viral, it wasn't as though you bad talked anybody, and you said earlier on in the interview, you didn't intend to shame anybody or have or to bring them down or to attack them. It was, you have a frustration, you're pointing out a problem. At the end of the day, it's not about blaming per se or attacking, it's about voicing concerns responsibly.
Well, also to add to that, I know that Mr. Paul mentioned why did the clerk not go to their supervisor and verify this or clear this, and that would be the next step. But it is also with a level of hope that the supervisor themselves are able to use their discretion. It points to a problem that plagues the public service. I think when it comes to training and enlightening public servants on this is how we should deal with customer. You see, this thing called customer service does not necessarily exist within the public service and within in some parts of the private service as well. And whilst I'm not trying to ill-speak anyone or downplay anyone in any way, this thing called discretion, many people don't know what that is. Many people don't even know what that word means. The thing is that, as I said, Mr. Paul chose to speak publicly about it, and he has expressed that it was purely him venting his frustrations. But at the same time, look at the end result. Mr. Paul got a call from the Ministry of Works. I'm not saying everybody is going to get a call from the Ministry of Works, but at the same time, Mr. Paul, this is a very good lesson to the last point that was made. The power of speaking out and the power of people sharing these stories so that these inefficiencies are fixed.
So it goes much deeper. Obviously, we are not unique. We have problems like everybody else. But Trinidadians on the whole, in these positions, we all say it, have a hoggish attitude. You go into an office and you do not expect to be treated nicely with a smile. Hi, good morning, how can I help you? I have conquered this. I go into these offices and I will make a joke. I will laugh, I will say, hi, good morning, how are you doing? But why should I have to go into this office and be the one to initiate a good aura? That should come from the customer service representative. But I find time and time again that I am the one, and I don't mind doing it because I like to be nice. It's nice to be nice. And that makes things go well. These people, they don't necessarily want anything. Just be nice to them. Treat them with respect and dignity, and you will get through. But why do we, the customer, have to initiate that type of behavior? On our roads, we are horrible. We curse one another. If somebody gives you the right of way to come out of a minor road onto a major road, say thanks. Beep your horn. You know, it's nice to be nice. And when somebody waves back or beeps their horn, how good do you feel? You feel right. Look how nice. But you give somebody a right of way, a right of passage on the road, and they just drive their car by and they're gone. As if, you know, that's hoggish behavior. We have to stop this hoggish behavior, and things will be real cool.
I like that line, Sean. It's nice to be nice.
That is an old line.
Nice to be nice.
I remember that. I think that was a campaign way back in the day, maybe before cable, and I remember by Fort Milford, it was in Crown Point. It was printed on a concrete wall for many years, and now it's gone. And like I've never heard of that slogan again. But I actually thought of it the other day, so I'm very happy that you brought it up, Mr. Paul. It's nice to be nice. I think it's something that sounds so simple, and we've kind of forgotten about it. We already knew it, and we already said it, and yet we kind of abandoned it, it seems.
I can never understand how, on a daily basis, the average Trimegonian, you know, we don't look at each other. We pass each other in the street. Nobody says good morning. No, people are genuinely.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. You ever said good morning to somebody on the street and they look at you like you took them by surprise? They didn't expect you to say good morning, so they don't know how to respond.
Exactly. It's like, wait, what? And they give you that look and like, and that happens. But guess what? It goes back to an example, Sean, you and I have used many times before, right? Not to digress too much, but if you take a look at last night and the cricket match last night, every single Trimegonian that was inside that stadium, everybody was nice to each other. There was a level of pride and unity and camaraderie that existed, right? That's just one example of how nice we can be as a people. When you walk out of that stadium, I can never understand it's how we immediately swap to this standoffish attitude, you know? But it's a very good point. Now, I know we have to take a break, but Mr. Paul, I just want to ask one question that is a bit different. You said you had to pay a Digicel bill as well. I'm curious to know, do you pay it online or in person?
No, the washer bill.
I know that, but you spoke about Digicel as well. I'm speaking specifically about that. Do you pay that online or in person?
Yes, sir. I pay that online on my telephone.
Okay. And the reason
if the government and the banks are making everybody now pay everything online, do not come in, pay everything online, how is that going to be accommodated in licensing? Are they going to accept my phone to show, listen, I paid this online? So everybody's going to be walking around licensing, all the officers with 10 and 20 phones. Yeah, this one is for this car, that car is for that car. So if we are going to digitize, you have to have a system that accommodates that digitization.
We didn't even have a system in place to pay property tax.
I think you made an interesting comment. This phone is for that car, that phone. I don't know if people are willing to give up their phones. It's one thing to give up. It's one thing to give up even an original copy of a bill. It's another thing to just, here, take my phone. I hope I get it back. I don't know. Unfortunately, and I think something that you said is right. We don't have the expectation of nice. And which is why I would say not a lot of people want to just hand over their phone to say my documentation is on my phone. That'll be a very tricky and arduous process. You have to have your phone and swipe through all your documents. Anyway, Mr. Paul, you have agreed to stay for calls, is that correct?
Yeah, I'll stay for a couple, yeah. Yeah, I'm retired.
All right, so...
Sean, I'm just glad that Mr. Paul pays his Digicel bill online though, because if he had the experience I did of having to go and pay input and charging me $5 to swipe my card to pay your bill.
Yeah.
I think I better not pop a bean myself this morning.
This might be very sad, but Mr. Paul, to some extent you're making me look bad because I have yet even started to figure out how to any sort of financial transactions online. I go into the banks. I am the real old man here on this topic. I go into the banks, I go into the utilities, I go into the telecommunication company. my mom figured out half of the stuff already, right? And for whatever reason, I'm like, I don't know, I'm just old-fashioned and I'll go in person. So I guess, you know, I need to step up my game to try to avoid some of those lines myself. Now, with that said, Keaton, Mr. Paul?
Yeah, it's taken me a while to get the basics, the very basic fundamentals down to pay these things online. Trust me. Yeah, it's taken me a while.
You're still better than me. I am resisting the change, and maybe that's bad. But with that said, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines. You could call in. You could ask Mr. Paul any questions on the situation or his thoughts on wider topics. Hopefully, just once you're respectful, depending on what he can or cannot answer.
I just have one small request. Can we stop referring to me as Mr. Paul? My name is Paul. Yeah, just call me Paul. Pablo. Call me anything you want, but just don't call me late for dinner.
Okay, sure.
It's nice to be nice. Let's take a break.
Oh, yeah.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
And we're back here on Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And just to remind people to please be respectful and be careful on exactly what perspectives you want to take. But with that said, also be careful with your language. This is live national television. With that said, we have our first caller on the line. Mover on the air. Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. Mr. Paul. Well, I commend you from the highest tower I could go to. And especially that last thing you said about giving people the chance to come into traffic or to reverse out of a driveway. I mean, I can't believe it. I am a person, I would stop. I would put on hazard lights to give somebody a chance to reverse out of a driver, and these people just reverse and go their way. Like if I am Sam, their friend from next door, and they knew I would stop with them. It's amazing that kind of hoggish, piggish, selfish attitude that I see. And like you, sir, I'm also a retiree. I would have gone on the pencil driving 3 times on the job I used to do. 3 times. And there's so much ignorance, so much crudity on our roadways. And all these things are a reflection of our leaders. Don't sit how you saying it. That situation right now with people lining up, I mean, a caring and functional thinking government. They would have addressed that. Some of these in that especially the man who's not very tall name, you know, How could you, as a government, people put you in office to work for them, and you treat them with contempt? And I always tell you, Sean, that this is until the dysfunction began. I mean, these different institutions are like that. We have nurtured this nonsense since 1960, and we as a people, we sit down. I have a friend. He tells me that you're always arguing for everything, and you're a simple brother. You have to be the best citizen in Trinidad and Tobago. I said, I don't like nonsense. I would always talk against it. I would always write letters about it, complain, because this country is in a mess. And simple common sense tells you when you're dealing with nonsense, you don't have to be all that brilliant. You know, I always tell people, I told a guy in one of these telecommunication offices, right? I don't want to call it the service, right?
Sure.
I said that, you know, one thing you can always get easily from all this attitude. Why do you think they say this? First thing you get is attitude. You know, that way they speak to you, they don't look at you. They are telling you something, and they are looking down or looking away from you, so you don't even know if they're speaking to you, and sometimes they don't speak clearly. Yesterday I had to tell a lady, I say, listen, madam, I'm not hearing what you're telling me. Then she repeats it now in this first manner. What is wrong with us? But this is an affliction that comes from the top. We have gotten so accustomed to poor service that we know given it. That is a situation. What kind of country is this? You know, you told me, and I agree with you, that the first 20 years of a country are important. Yes, I remember I told you it takes 3 years for a child, and it's to be around 25. I agree with you. The other years are also crucial, but those first years, they set a standard that if you don't work hard for the other years, the standard will go away. I can't do that anymore. Paul,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly remind callers that 149 is operating at this time, 623-9376. So please be mindful of the timing of your contribution as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, caller, because listening to the caller, I came to the conclusion, we have a poor customer service culture. And I think not only does that cause some people in the role will be bad at the role or give bad customer service, you have customers with low expectations being terse customers, but I think also it's hard to train people in such an environment on how to give good customer service, because it really is difficult to kind of just tell them, well, this is what you do, and then they will be able to do it without like good examples to follow. And I don't know if we have some, but I don't know in TNT if we have a lot of good examples to follow about what good customer service is. We have Petty Valley on the line. Or Digger Martin. Morning, caller.
Hi. Is this Paul from Irving Street, San Fernando?
No, it's not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Sean, may I just add?
Go ahead.
May I just add something? We all in Trinidad are bosses at complaining, but recently, a young lady came to my property to do a valuation. She was a consummate professional. She was well-mannered. She listened to me because I have a lot of opinion on this property tax. And she listened to me. She did her job very professionally. And I was blown away with her level of professionalism. And what I did after she left, I called the valuation division. I took note of her name, and I made a commendation and told her boss how good she was. But we don't do that in Trinidad. We go to an office, somebody is nice to us. What do? Nothing. And it works both ways. So if somebody has given you good service in a bank or in a government office or wherever you do, in courts, wherever, go back to their boss and say, listen, this person deserves to be acknowledged as a good customer service recommend. Maybe that will put merit points in their book, you know, and get, but we don't do that either.
Well, I'll have to cut you off there because we do have Digger Martin waiting on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on the air?
Hi. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Mr. Digger Martin.
Mr. Digger Martin,
It's
good
been
morning.
so long since we've heard from you, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, you know, my challenges, so, and that gentleman, he's so very correct that, you know, this is what's lacking in this country. We don't have discipline, tolerance, and accountability in this country. And people have lost all sense of discipline. It does not take anything out of anybody to say good morning, good evening, you know, and that's the breakdown in the country, and that's why the country is being run as it runs. It needs, my parents need to teach the children from small. I went through all what a gentleman is saying here, most of it, and over the years, and I have lifted people who and so on to get my vehicles inspected and all this sort of nonsense. Brand new vehicles, you know, just 1 year old. And one of them became commissioner of, I said, boy, look at these people and them, boy. And the fact is that everything in this country, I have my late 70s. And everything I used to do long time, bribe, they want a bribe for this, a bribe for that. That is one thing my father taught me. He said, son, do not pay a bribe to nobody. Do not induce anybody to make you pay a bribe, because you become one of them, and then that is how your life will have to live. And anytime you change those morals from you, you're not a man. And I try to follow my best way at my age, and thank God for my father. He didn't have much education, but boy, common sense. If common sense was where education was, he would be right number one. So, you know, these are the people that, you know, I keep on always thinking of my parents. But it may have fact that my father came from nothing and brought me up and teach me how to do things and made us, you know, to be right, good, upstanding citizens. And all what we earned over the years in many properties that we own, that we work hard and achieve them, not by bribing anybody or anything. I waited 6 months to get a vehicle when not paying a bribe. I had to go down south, and I wanted 2 vehicles, bought 2 vehicles from here, Massey. And I couldn't buy down here because all these salesmen down here want to bribe. And I couldn't, we never did, we waited out and I went down south. Because I met a good gentleman there, he put my name down on our book, and when time was come, he called us and we got our vehicle and everything else went well. That is how the country is being run. These leaders and all have to try and instill that in the people. They're not doing that. All these leaders in this country need to instill these disciplines in the people and teach them, let them know the country needs the right path. If you don't do the right way, this country will be upside down already, upside down. And may God bless all of you all. Thank you for taking my call, sir. I welcome the way of France and spoke your mind. And I'm sorry to see you endure what you had to endure. So I passed it through as well. So have a good day, all of you all, and again, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, Mr. Digger Martin.
Yes, very good to Mr. Digger Martin. Haven't heard from him in quite some time. But Sean, if I may just say, he said his father taught him, and that's something that is also lacking. The values that our parents taught us, you know, I certainly wish that would have been passed on, but it's not happening now, even with parenting and what it goes through, the attitude that you see, we did speak about customer service training and all that, but sometimes if that is non-existent, given what Paul has said this morning about it's nice to be nice and how sometimes he has to initiate that level of respect, it's just the attitude that you go with, it's just the attitude that you walk in with.
We have Digger Martin, another Digger Martin on the line.
Hello.
Morning, caller, you're on here.
Right, this is the real Digger Martin, not the imitation Digger Martin. And good morning to your guests. And good morning to you, Mr. Shah. A couple of issues. And it has to do with 2 other issues, but just to draw the attention, the frustration
of paying property tax. In Shogunas, you have to work with cash because you pull out your cashless card and they will tell you they are accepting it. And when you have senior who have to go to the bank, and when they're coming out of the bank, you have potential robbery taking place. I experienced that because I took one of my relatives in Shogunas to do that, and I had the frustration, and I don't know what happened to the Minister of Finance. Apparently, he's short of intelligence. Now, what I'm calling to, and I'm going hard at the Minister of Education, where she alleging sabotage in the Mount Hope School. It have about 15 schools to be finished in 95, 75, but 80 and things like that. That wasn't sabotage by a government. Leaving all those children exposed to the element, moving them up and down, facing all the potholes, facing all of those. That is sabotage by a government and by a minister, and it started with the former Minister of Education, who is the father-in-law of the president. That I will tell you, that is what is sabotage. And the next thing I'm coming to, my topic, my pet topic, the police service. It's a wonderful thing that this response to the Minister of Health was so quickly done. But I believe, based on the history of the police, that was not a real, that was an imagined, and that was a setup. How long does a police take to respond to a crime call? So if they do it so quickly now, within 3 hours, that what it tells me, they're fooling me all the time. They're deliberately discriminating with respect to citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Think about it. And I mean to say, they show you on where he was using the phone. It was an AI call. The phone was not on. So it's artificial intelligence trying to hold us that he was possibly making a genuine call. I'm going to say no more. And sir, as the guest, I feel your frustration. I wish we could have voted them out today. I'm going to have a nice morning.
Caller, I have to say two things. One, the other caller from Diego Martin, as far as my memory is correct, he might be the OG Diego Martin caller and one of the OG callers on Talking Point. He just doesn't call us frequently, right? So I will appreciate your contributions to the show being more frequent, but you know, we can't. Let's not try and say who wants to claim which location. With that said, I'll say this too. With regards to robberies, police have gotten suspects and arrested suspects very quickly after robberies, particularly when the robbers tended to act stupid, like be in the vehicle that they were in, that the initial reports of them escaping in, they were able to find them quickly. There was one situation where they intercepted a car, I think, on Park and Henry Street in Port of Spain a few weeks ago. So I could believe the situation. Apparently they were still in the car. They were still relatively close enough for the police to find them. They didn't try to escape and hide. I could believe that the police, they just did the job because they've done so in the past for common citizens. We have a Remoni line. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Caller, good morning.
Good morning to all three gentlemen there.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just want to express the way that I was treated at Mount Hope in the cardio clinic at Mount Hope. I went there. It was my first clinic appointment, and I got one of the best treatment. I never got a treatment like that before because I am in other clinics. And I went there, and a nurse by the name of Diana dealt with me, gave me the ECG and so on. She was great. If I had a pain, I'm sure the pain would have gone. She was great, and as well as the others. I didn't get the others' names, but all of them in the cardio clinic at Mount Hope, I want to give them 100+ facts for how they treated me. And it was the first time I got such nice treatment at Mount Hope. Thanks a lot for hearing me.
Thank you, caller. It's nice to get some good news.
It's some good news, and Paul, it seems as though that caller is also taking some inspiration from what you did. You remember when you said you called the property tax evaluation office to commend the individual who came and did your evaluation. It's good that this call is now sharing her experience publicly. It's good to have some good news.
Right. So if that, but that has to, you have to start inculcating that into you.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, yes, she did get one of the names. Try and get 2 and 3 next time, and find out who the supervisor is in that ward or in charge of that, and write them a little note. I've done that several times. Write them a little note. Say that Miss Haynes or whatever her name was very good. Nurse so and so was very good. That will start a culture of niceness, and I will not take I've forgotten the word, but I want to say that I lived in Tobago for 20 years, and when I left Trinidad in the early 80s to go and live in Tobago, it was like a cultural shock to me, because you'd walk down the road and everybody would say morning, 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 and that was Tobago back then. And when I came back to Trinidad in 2000 and something, I lived there 20 years, and I followed on in that behavior. People would look at me and say, you know, what's going on? And 20 years in Tobago, I learned, you walk down the road, you say good morning to people. I learned that in Tobago. So it's not only about your family inculcating this manner to you. I learned that in Tobago. It was a community that taught me that. It was a community. So we can harness that and niceness, and let's have a country of niceness.
We have Trinity on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here. Caller, good morning.
Hi, good morning. So my question to the country at large is this. How is it that the government service so fortunate, they have to be fortunate, that every single employee they hire, from customs, coast guard, police, everybody, they're infallible. They all poop like material, because none of them ever lose their job, they ever get suspended that you ever hear about, or they ever get moved completely out of the branch that they sign up in. Only the police service, when they moved the 2 guys from Tobago, I haven't heard they move people in ages, but more so everybody. So I'm trying to figure out what is the government's hiring process so that I can replicate it, because they seem to always get people that are incorruptible, that is perfect, and for some reason it is okay when you hire these people, because in a normal business, if you hire a CEO or a general manager or what have you, and they're non-performers, you have metrics in which you measure them by, and of course your performance reviews and so forth. But in the government service, as long as you could bide time and keep biding time, you will get promoted up the ranks, and that's all and that's how they do it, and it's okay. And then these people are just allowed to really do what they want, because you see police cars, 4 of them yesterday in Price Mart, 4 police vehicles. They think they're there for Price Mart. No, they were doing groceries. School time, they're picking up their kids, siren, whoop, 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 and they go about the business. But here it is the regular citizen. We don't have none of these perks, none. We are the tax contributors in this country. But all that being said, it really just highlights, and I'm sorry that Mr. Ramcharan had to go through what you had gone through in licensing office, but it does not surprise me, because very recently I have a car bought brand new from the company in Trinidad, brand new, and the car was licensed from the company. And then when I went to do the sticker 5 years later, the inspection sticker, they're telling me that the vehicle failed because the car has 2 colors on it. I say, hold on. Yes, the car has 2 colors on it. I didn't do that. It came from manufacture like this, black and the other primary color. So I told them, okay, but I didn't do this. This is how the car came, with the original picture from the showroom and everything. This is how the car came. They say, no, I have to go and do an amendment now to change the color and do that, which I did. I waited 3 weeks for a certified copy, and then I had to go back again and go back again. So long story short, I took over 6 or 8 weeks and 3 visits to licensing office to license the vehicle. And I had to go to the licensing office and not a garage based on the weight of the vehicle. By the way, it is still a P vehicle, which also does not make sense for me. Why a P vehicle? Because it's heavy. I have to go to the election office. So P and not T. So when you look at all these things that are set out to frustrate us Trinidadians, you really ask yourself, where's the benefit of me saying I'm a Trinidadian? What do I get back in return for my tax-paying dollars? What do I get back for being a good citizen? What do I get back? And really and truly, all we really get back in this country is frustration and delays and real I don't want to use bad words, but real half ARSE responses on how we treat. You could buy KFC on an app and it will be delivered to your door, but I'm going to pay property tax in the thousands of dollars and have to go with cash. So I don't know when, and I feel Paul's frustration. I don't know when we will ever even step up into what century. I don't know what century this country operates in, but we know we're near 21st. I don't know. I feel just as he. So thank you very much for the time to make a contribution, and thank you all to you on the panel here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you very much.
I think
I don't. Sorry, Sean. Go ahead.
No, I brought up a lack of a sense of national identity and pride, and the fact that our cultural icons, our sports icons, our heroes, we might be doing a disservice there. But I think he raises a good point. The frustration literally undermines, I think, national identity.
I think national identity and national pride exist, but it's selective. It's very much selective. I think it's very much selective. And to the point that he's making about hiring, do we have employee performance assessments or reviews within the public service? I don't think so, and I think that is also something to look at, But even one way of doing it is by calling people and commending them when they do a good job, or even making a suggestion. We'd like to say complaint, making a suggestion going forward if something is not right.
Last I checked, you could kidnap a man and then be promoted. And I'll just leave that one there. I don't know, Paul, if you have anything to add before we close?
Let's try and have a culture of nice. Let's have a ministry of simple. Because this Trinidad and Tobago is a wonderfully beautiful country. But it is us, the people, that are spoiling it. Us, the people, that are spoiling it. And us, the people, can change it. Let's do stuff being nice, being proud. Stop littering. My gosh, it is horrible. We say we are proud Trinidadians, we are proud Tobagonians, but are we really? The only time we are proud is when we go to the States and somebody asks you, where you're from? Oh, we're from Trinidad, blah, 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 blah. But we are not proud at home. Let's make home proud and nice first. So that's my contribution, and I hope it helps.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Paul, for joining Sean and I on the program this morning. Thank you very much for also being present for the call-in segment. And thank you very much for reminding us that it's nice to be nice. Thank you very much for everything, Paul.
Thank you.
And of course, we'd like to thank all of our callers. I know some people brought up property tax. Not necessarily had the time to get into that today, although that's part of the frustration. One of the big examples that a lot of people are going through with frustration and uncertainty. So of course, we'll be talking about that throughout the days and weeks ahead as we get to September the 30th, which I believe is both the deadline as well as budget day. Interesting how that's all coming together. So at the very least, we know in a couple of weeks, we'll, one way or the other, get some more information. Not sure if we will like what we get, but that's a whole other story. Keaton, of course, always good to be joined by you. Good, sir?
Well, thank you very much. And I think I'm always a pleasure being on Talking Point. Talking Point is where we started, Sean. But in that regard, it's good to have a guest on the program this morning who has spoken of their experiences and contributed even further to the show. But to Paul and to Sean, thank you very much. And let me remind you that today is a good day to have a good day.
Folks, Remember your allegiance to this republic. Stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
The home of Caribbean content